Good morning to you. I am Mark Sudduth, and here's what's up in the tropics. It is Friday, the 26th of August, 2022. Things are starting to look a little bit more interesting now out here as we approach the weekend and, of course, the end of the month. Will the zero ACE, that is basically no energy expended by tropical cyclones because there haven't been any, will that continue through the end of the month? And there's a pretty good shot, but we do have these two areas here that we will be watching over the next several days that could both be candidates for developing. Will they do so before the end of August? We still have 5 days after today, so we shall see. The westernmost system, very interesting to watch as this evolves. A lot of longer in the period computer model forecasts indicating possible trouble for the Gulf of Mexico. We will see about that. First, we have to see if it develops at all. And then this other system out in the eastern Atlantic, that one is also very interesting to see, part of an overall very complex and convoluted system of tropical waves and just other energy out in the tropical Atlantic. And we can see that here on the satellite animation, a very large area of thunderstorms. That is not the tropical wave itself. That's just a big cluster of thunderstorms, or what we call a mesoscale convective complex or system. Just a huge area of thunderstorms. The parent tropical wave is farther back to the east, but all of that energy could gradually come together and try to develop into a tropical cyclone at some point over the next 5 to 7 days. Meanwhile, in the eastern Caribbean, doesn't look like much here, but there is some energy there that we need to watch as it progresses towards the western and northwestern Caribbean Sea in several days. And that system that was an upper level low spinning south of Bermuda, it has worked its way down to just off the Bahamas in that vicinity, looking a lot less interesting this morning. And those rarely ever make it down to the surface, those upper level lows. Sometimes they do, but it's not often, and this probably won't be the case this time. All right, shear, looking at the shear, all of this area right here, I wanted to point out, in the Caribbean and the Gulf, the shear has decreased and it's really low right now. So anything that goes through this region would have a fairly favorable upper environment to work with. I just wanted to point that out. And then the vorticity signature, just a weak signature right there, but that will be working its way towards the northwest Caribbean, and that is typically a very favorable area this time of year, so we're going to want to watch that closely. In about 3 to 5 days, something could start to become of it. Meanwhile, in the eastern Atlantic, look at all those yellows and even some oranges and close to reds. A lot of energy trying to gather out there. The question is, when and where does it do so? A lot of model support now, several of the global models jumping on this to develop at some point in time over the next few days, and you can see that here even in the precipitable water animation, just a lot of overall turning and energy out there, a lot of potential energy. It is very reminiscent to what we see in the western Pacific with these giant stretched out monsoon troughs out that way. And once in a while you get a typhoon to develop off of those, and it just takes a while. And I think that's what we're seeing here in the Atlantic, is a similar situation to how we get the big typhoons to develop in the western Pacific. Meanwhile, there's that energy entering into the eastern Caribbean. Energy, moisture in this case represents a pretty good amount of heat in the atmosphere, and all of that is going to be moving towards the western Caribbean and the northwest Caribbean, just off the eastern Yucatan in about 4 to 5 days, not that far out in time, and we will certainly be watching that very closely. A lot of people watch the models beyond the 5-day time frame, and that's fine, just as long as you put it into the proper context that it is subject to a lot of change, and we don't even have anything developed yet. These are all just seedlings, something to watch for the future. And this is one of the ways that we do so. We'll end with the GFS. This is the 6Z run, going out to 120 hours, first in the eastern Atlantic. It starts with all of that convoluted mess out there, and it ends right at day 5 there, around day 4 and 5, with something trying to develop east of the Windward Islands by a good distance, and then we'll see. But a lot of model support here, the Euro, the Canadian, I do believe, the GFS, a lot of the ensembles, really starting to hone in on this now. Also at the end of the period here, notice in the Northwest Caribbean, the energy comes in, it finally starts to flare up right there, and we're going to have to watch that. Does something try to come together, or is the global forecast system, the GFS here, just suffering from what we call convective feedback, where it is developing spurious areas of thunderstorms and then consequently vorticity or energy, and then just running wild with it. Sometimes that happens, and we see that in the models, and you don't know, is it real? Is it just something happening in the model that's not handling the physics properly? That it is only the next 3 to 5 days that this starts to happen gives it just a little bit more credence that it could develop something, and we'll just monitor and see. All right, I will come back this afternoon with a more in-depth look at things with my hurricane outlook and discussion, and I invite you to join me for that later today. All right, until then, have a great rest of your Friday. Thanks as always for tuning in to What's Up in the Tropics. I am Mark Sudduth. I'll talk to you again several hours from now.